Oh, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I will tell you what, I know some of my viewing audience might be a little bit on the older side. I don't mean that to be rude at all. I'm just saying a young whippersnapper like myself does enjoy a nice Saturday night of debauchery, right? I kind of like to sleep in a little bit on Sunday when possible. I've been missing a lot of these 9:30 games, really almost all of them, at least the first and second quarter. But this week, I have absolutely no choice because here we are. I'm going to have to suck it up and put my big boy pants on. I'm actually still going to a stand-up show tonight after I record this, going to see Tom Segura, for those of you who are familiar, at Stony Brook University. Should be a great show. Now, back to the Colts, right? No one cares about Tom Segura here, at least in terms of this game. On paper, this one is much like last week against the Panthers, if you ask me. The Indianapolis Colts are just better than the New England Patriots across the board. When it comes to players and talent, go figure, because the Colts were considered to be one of the worst rosters in the league coming into this season. I suppose maybe the Patriots as well. But you look just across the board, the Colts all the way, right? I mean, the Colts are averaging, 25, 26 points per game, something in that range. The Patriots averaging 15 points per game. The Pats receivers, they are bad, right? I mean, you're talking, I thought I just saw one of them behind the counter ringing up groceries at my local Stop and Shop. I mean, the Pats receivers are really in a bad way, which obviously helps the Colts corners, which we do have some questions about, despite the fact that Jalen Jones, here's a fun stat for you, of all the corners in the NFL that have 150 plus snaps in coverage, only 2 have allowed less than 100 yards on them. Jalen Jones and Marlon Humphrey of the Baltimore Ravens, considered to be one of the best cornerbacks in football. Not too bad for a 7th round pick, right? So you take all of these things into account. We know what the Colts offense has been able to do. We know what the Patriots offense has not been able to do. When you look at it that way, this is an obvious Colts win. But the question becomes, how important are storylines and things of that nature to you when you're evaluating a football game? Because for me personally, I'll tell you, I grew up a fan, not just of football, but of the WWE. Now, maybe not so much now as I was then, but I do find that when you have some of these storylines going on, they really do matter, and they play themselves out on the field very often. Obviously, anyone following the NFL knows what's going on with the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick and all the drama there. There's some rumors that if they were to lose to the Colts this week, they go into a bye just like Indianapolis. Belichick may be without a job, which, that would be as sweet as anything. Maybe one of the great accomplishments of the season would be the Indianapolis Colts retiring or firing Bill Belichick out of New England. I don't know if the Patriots still hold that rivalry as deeply as we do here as Colts fans, but for me personally, I still hate the Patriots. They're fucking guts. Fuck those guys. If we were able to get Belichick out of there, that would be great. That being said, we know Belichick is one of the greatest coaches in the history of football. Some people would say as a consensus, he is. That's really not the discussion. Point being, the same way we know that his back is against the wall right now, he knows. The Colts have not beaten, or rather, they've only beaten the Patriots one time since the year 2010. We play them practically every single season. And it goes back to the storylines, right? How much do those types of trends and things of that nature matter? Because you look at things like the Colts losing streak in Jacksonville. It just continues. No matter what we do, it always finds a way to play itself out. You think of the Colts week 1 woes. Those are the types of things that always find a way to play themselves out, to the point where last year the Colts literally tied against the Texans in week 1 because the Texans streak where they couldn't beat the Colts and the Colts streak where they couldn't win in week 1 collided. If anyone had bet the tie, you'd be a genius. That was the right move to do. You look, even if we were to take it away from the Colts briefly, you look at the year that the Bears, no matter what kicker they brought in, they just kept hitting the upright. You know how hard it is to hit the upright as a kicker? You can tell a kicker to try to do that 10 times in a row. There's no guarantee he does it. The level of precision to hit the goalpost, but that was one of those things. That was a storyline, that was a narrative, and it was playing itself out almost in a way that is beyond what you can possibly control on the field, like some sort of higher power, right? The Jets quarterback curse. They can't have nice things. Aaron Rodgers tears the Achilles. These are just examples. I'm just trying to paint the picture to you. It's not always about the X's and O's, or maybe it is. I don't know. I'm asking you what you think. For me, sometimes these storylines matter. And the only reason this game is interesting at all, in my opinion, is really not much. I mean, obviously, it's interesting to Colts fans like us because of the Colts, but I think around the league, this game is much more about the Patriots than it is the Indianapolis Colts. So let's go ahead and talk about it, as some unexplainable things do find the way to happen in the game of football. And the Colts losing this game to the Patriots based off of everything we've seen this season would be somewhat unexplainable. But again, when you take the narratives, who knows, right? So what we're going to be talking about today, of course, we'll touch up on the injury report. This is a game preview. I knew we were going to get here eventually, right? What I expect this game to look like, along with a few other things I just kind of have my eye on and I'm staying conscious of going into this game, so you could take some of what I tell you, and maybe if you find it interesting, you could think about it as you watch the game, and we could reconvene after it and kind of talk about some of these things, right? So let's get into it. But before we do, as always, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Justin. This right here is the Ride on the Bench Colts cast. As always, if you are enjoying it or find yourself enjoying it, please shoot it a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible, which at this time of the season seems to be a much tougher thing to do. The numbers are down, not just for me, but really everyone across the board, not to expose anyone's gimmick or bust their gimmick, but realistically, it seems like the fans on some level have lost a little bit of interest in this season. Guess what, guys? We can be 5-5 going into the bye week. We have a business trip in Germany. It's quite possible that we can still slip into the wild card. It's not likely, but technically, when you look at the math, for all the mathematicians out there, it's possible. But back in the intro, right? Subscribe if you want to subscribe. But let's get back into it, and let's start with the injury report. And I'll tell you, the Patriots, will kind of save them for a little bit after, because it plays into what I expect to see in this game. But just for the Colts, I mean, obviously, we all know Anthony Richardson at this point, right? Out for the season, right? I'm not telling you anything. I only bring that up because realistically, when you look around the league, the Colts are relatively healthy, all things considered, right? Juju Brents won't be in Germany, nor will Drew Ogletree. Those two will be out. Josh Downs has not practiced all week. He traveled with the team. I guess he's a game time decision. I wouldn't expect him to be out there. It's not often guys just go the whole week without practice and then show up on game day and play. But you never know. Zaire Franklin was able to put out a full practice on Friday. It looks like he will be out there and ready to go. Braden Smith about to make his return, and Alec Pierce looking like he's going to play for us as well. So all things considered, the horses are out there, right? And no pun intended, I guess, because we're the Colts, the horseshoe, the whole deal. But we have the horses to beat the Patriots. Now, the Patriots injury report, on the other hand, I mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 guys on this injury report. One of them is David Andrews, resting really because he's an old man in football terms. So that is what it is, right? Now, as far as what I expect to see, because this does play into the Patriots injury report a little bit, and realistically, as Colts fans, what do we care who's in and who's out on the Patriots overall, right? I personally expect the Colts to come out hot in this game offensively. This team has been good early and often on offense this season. If the Colts are to take a lead in this game early, it's going to put the Patriots in a very, very tough position, given the fact that their offense has struggled. Given the fact that if I were to step out there and play receiver for them with a pulled hamstring like I have right now, I'd arguably be the best one they have. The Patriots would have a tough time coming from behind in this game, particularly because Trent Brown, their best offensive lineman, will not be playing in this game. And when you are behind in a game, that affects the quote-unquote game script, as some people would call it. Or in other words, you can't mix it up as much. You get put in a position where you have to abandon the run. If the Colts could put the Patriots in that spot with no Trent Brown and the way this pass rush has been playing, and I am going to continue to correct everybody who says the Colts don't have a pass rush. They are a top 10 pass rush in football as per the numbers, at least as of last week. I didn't check this week, so spare me. My point is that they're far above average as a pass rush, and they're one of the leading teams in the league in terms of strip sacks. So this is a team that's getting after the quarterback even without blitzing. That's the truth. That's not my emotion. That is the truth that I'm telling you right there. If the Patriots have to throw the ball, often and they can't balance it out with the run, it's going to be a long day for the Patriots offense because the Colts are just, I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster may be New England's best receiver playing. He's going to be in the slot. Kenny Moore has been, obviously, last week was the week for Kenny Moore, but he has been spectacular all year. Again, don't see how, if the Colts can come out and take a lead early, which I expect, I don't see how, with the way they're able to run the ball when they commit to it, I don't see how the Patriots, without Trent Brown, are going to be able to do enough offensively to come back in this game. So that's really not just what I expect to see. That is the key to victory for the Indianapolis Colts. If the Colts are to lose this game, it will be because of the things I mentioned at the top of the show. Some of those unexplainable things that are outside of the X's and O's that tend to play themselves out in the game of football. The fact that the Colts generally don't perform particularly well against the Patriots. The fact that Bill Belichick's back is against the wall. Will the Patriots respond and play up? Or will they do what they continue to be doing? If they play the way they've been playing and the Colts play the way they've been playing, on paper, this is really a no contest, right? Now, as far as for things I'm watching for, and then I'll let you go on with the rest of your Saturday night, I'm looking at Shaquille Leonard. Is anything going to change there? I mean, it's really heartbreaking to see some of what you're hearing from him. Listen, is he the same guy? Not quite. Has he been a solid linebacker this season? Yes, he has. Now, it's harder to have that opinion because it's kind of like the same situation that the Cowboys were in with Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott was still an effective running back for the Cowboys come his time at the end of his reign there, if you will. But the Cowboys fans had the memories and the lasting images of how great he was for them. And because of that, it would be harder for them to accept the level he was at as opposed to another team. That's where Shaquille Leonard might be at right now. Now, I would like to see them let him loose at some point. I mean, it's hard for a guy who was always a pass coverage type of guy, always a playmaker on third down. If you're not playing him on third down, how can you possibly expect him to regain his confidence and kind of get into a rhythm? Last week was a perfect opportunity for it, and you just felt they didn't let him loose, and I just don't want to see it like this. If Shaq Leonard is not going to be the same guy, if you're asking me, maybe their plan is after the bye week to let him loose. I would like to see Shaq Leonard go out on his sword, if you will, right? I want to see the Colts let him loose and see what happens. What's the worst that happens? We let up 30? Oh, geez, that never happens, right? So for me, Shaq Leonard at this point, if you're the Colts, we're waiting, right? November was the timeline before the season. I'm looking to see his snap count in this game. I'll be checking after the game and comparing it to what he's been going throughout the season, which really has been actually more than EJ Speed. But obviously, Zaire Franklin's on for like every single play. Shaq Leonard, once upon a time, was not now. The other thing I'm looking for in this game was Darrell Baker Jr., because I thought he played good last week. We mentioned at the top of the show the Patriots receivers. They're not great. Last week, I was talking about the Panthers. Same thing. It's a great opportunity for a guy like Darrell Baker Jr., who's gone through it, to gain some confidence against a weak receiving core. Darrell Baker Jr. was our guy through OTAs, training camp, into the preseason. He was really playing well, preseason type. And then as we got into the season, something changed. The lights came on, right? And sometimes that just happens to guys. And now all of a sudden, I think you're dealing with a confidence issue, not an ability issue. Darrell Baker Jr. is kind of the type of guy, for whatever reason, I don't know. My gut just tells me I think he's going to turn it around. I think he's going to have a good game today, and I'm just going to watch to see how he plays, because he's a guy that if he were to really come into his own and be who the Colts were expecting him to be based off of how he was performing preseason coming into this game, all of a sudden you project forward with this team and you kind of like the corners we have. It's really not that bad, right? Because you have a Jalen Jones who's been excellent, particularly as a seventh rounder. Juju Brents was really coming to his own before he dealt with his injury that he continues to deal with. And now you have Darrell Baker Jr., Kenny Moore, and you kind of have some pieces there in a core. And now you can start adding pieces to it, right? You don't get complacent there, but it's really not that far behind. Darrell Baker Jr., I think, is a very important part of this team right now. And going forward, I think he can be. And I want to see how he plays. I'm just going to have my eye on him. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm watching for in this game. That's what I expect it to look like. I expect a Colts victory. And I'm hoping I don't fall flat on my face for doing that. As Shane Steichen says, a business trip. I love that term when he says that. A business trip to Germany, an opportunity to be 5-5, headed into a bye week in a season that everybody thought was lost, and it seems people already think is lost and are losing interest in. Don't come back when things turn around. If they do, let's see what the Colts have for the Patriots this week. And until next time, my name is Justin. This right here was the Ride the Bench Colts cast. As always, go Colts.